Have you ever heard people say EVs are so unreliable, they blow up all the time, Teslas catch fire, the hitches fall off, there must be something terribly wrong with these vehicles. And if that was true, it would show up in the data. We would be able to see that Tesla's spending so much money repairing these broken vehicles, right? Well, today you're in luck. I have Larry Goldberg doing a brand new type of content on my channel. He is a 60-year veteran. You heard that right, 60-year veteran in analytics and also running startups. He's had 12 different startups and he specializes in very innovative areas. He's super familiar with the electric vehicle space. He follows Tesla as closely as anybody that I've ever met before in my life. And he's an expert in analyzing Elon Musk companies. And in this video, he has taken the time to craft a very detailed presentation. And he's going to approach this from a data perspective, improving those statements false and showing what is actually happening in the market. Let me know what you think in the comment section of this kind of content. Like it if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel for more. And without further ado, here goes Larry Goldberg.
So what am I going to do today? In my first podcast, I'm going to focus on Tesla's warranty performance. Why focus on Tesla's warranty performance? About 5 or so years ago, with the introduction of the Model 3, a lot of the naysayers for Tesla, and there are many naysayers for Tesla, famously called Tesla Q, focused on the warranty repair line item, cost line item in the financials. And warranty repairs are set up by way of a reserve account. So a certain percentage of the company's revenue are set aside to pay for warranty repairs, and that goes to a reserve account. As warranty repairs are done, that depletes the reserve account. The question is there enough put away for warranty repairs in the reserve account? And moreover, Tesla Q accused the company of doing repairs under repair and maintenance and marking them as repairs done for free, for goodwill purposes, so that they would mask the amount of warranty repairs being done. For that reason, I did a deep dive to understand whether Tesla is putting enough money into their warranty repair program reserve, and whether or not they were actually doing these so-called goodwill repairs. Now, you must understand that almost all OEMs, almost all motor car companies do goodwill repairs. And those goodwill repairs are when there's an issue as to whether something's under warranty or not under warranty, and they wish to provide that service anyway for their customer. What distinguishes Tesla from the average OEM is Tesla sells direct to the customer and services the customer's car directly, whereas the dealer does not. So that when the dealer actually does a goodwill repair, that dealer then has to make a claim against the company, or that dealer negotiates with the OEM to provide that goodwill repair. I've had a goodwill repair done for me before. My wife had a Honda CR-V. The air conditioner went out of warranty, but while the car was relatively young, and Honda met me halfway by paying for half of the repair. That would have been a goodwill repair, and that's how it would have been coded. So from time to time, we will see Tesla repairs done under the heading of goodwill. This is not unusual. What is unusual, of course, is that Tesla does all their own repairs, so all goodwill repairs are a Tesla expense, and it goes directly to the expense. But I'm going to show you how it's a nominal portion of their expenses, but that'll become very clear from the figures. So without further ado, let me share my screen, and I will show you the work that I did some years ago, started some years ago, and published on X under my account Tesla Larry, and how I've maintained it from time to time. And we are looking now at the warranty performance for the first half of 2024. And we will compare it to prior years, and we'll trace those prior years. And the other thing I will tell you is that we're using the source material for this presentation is Warranty Week. WarrantyWeek.com is a fantastic resource Warranty Week publish all kinds of warranty information, amongst which they track the performance of US, but also global OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, that is to say, car manufacturers. And so we will look at the figures for the first half of 2024, but we'll also at the same time look at the results of the earlier years. So let's start with the actual data itself. So what we're looking at in this slide is data from since 2018, since I started tracking these expenses. And just to orient you, we'll look at the 2024 half-year column. The first row in the column is the number of vehicles sold in that period, and that comes straight from the Tesla 10Q. And then the number of vehicles that I estimate are under warranty. Now, there's no magic in that number. All I've done is lump together the total sales for the past 4 years. This is a very broad measure, but it kind of is accurate, and it gives us a measuring stick, which if we use consistently year after year after year, it gives us an indication of how things are going. The next row is the warranty provision. That warranty provision comes from the 10Q. It is the amount of money for this period, that is to say, in this particular case, the 6 months to quarter two, and it talks about the warranty provision set aside for this period of time for the 831,000 cars sold in that period of time. And the total amount of money is $1.260 billion. These are all dollars in billions, as you see there. Actual costs incurred during the period were $668 million, 5% more than half of the total set aside in the provision. And then the next row is the accrued warranty provision. That is to say, all the amounts of money set aside and not yet spent on repairs for cars. So that warranty provision is now $5.795 billion. You read that correctly, $5.8 billion approximately, which is accrued. And it started at $748 million back in 2018. So you can see it's been accruing very rapidly. And it's accruing at roughly the rate of 600 million per half year at this point in time. And of course, as the number of cars sold by Tesla increases, that number is going to increase. So then if we do a per vehicle accounting, if we roughly divide the provision per vehicle of that $5.795 billion, we see that the provision per vehicle is roughly $1,114 per vehicle that is still under warranty out there in the world. And that's roughly 5.2 million vehicles. Then we look at the actual expense in this period that we paid out of our reserve fund per vehicle. And it turned out to be $128. So in other words, and that's roughly in line with performance in the last couple of years, because the full year expense last year was $265. The year before was $253. The year before, $256. And we're roughly in line with that $256 per year, and $128 for the half year, is right on board. And all it takes is taking this amount of money, $1.114 billion that Tesla set aside in their reserve account, and divided by the number of vehicles. Now we address, and I did address at the time I first published this back in 2018, this whole accusation that Tesla's somehow hiding the actual cost of repairs of the vehicle by giving away the cost in the so-called goodwill account. Well, all of that will fall as an expense in the services and other account, because that's the one area. That's the bucket that goodwill services would go into. If we look over the period of time, we'll see that the revenue for this particular bucket, for the services and other, has risen from 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion roughly in 2018, and it rose all the way to 4.896 billion for the half year for 2024. It looks like we're on track to exceed $9.7 billion. And in that $9.7 billion is all service costs, all services charged, and in that revenue included is charging revenue and other miscellaneous charges that Tesla would have. For example, their store, the store that you can buy, goodies at, Tesla goodies at, and other miscellaneous revenue amounts in the vehicle business and in some of the other businesses as well. The cost of sales, if you go back to 2018, they were losing 26.01%, 26% roughly of their revenue every year. Their loss in the year 2018 was $489 million. That loss rose in 2019 and started to fall quite dramatically in 2020. And I suspect that's because the charging network really started to take off. So when you take all the expenses of maintenance and all the costs of building out the service operations, and if you take into account all the other expenses that they have, some of these revenue items started actually picking up. And here we are in 2023, the full year in 2023, we showed a 6.25% profit. If it were true that Tesla were hiding warranty repairs and the fleet grew from 476 million cars 476,000 cars in 2018 to 4.69 million cars in 2023 and 5.2 million cars. And that's just the fleet under warranty. It is very, very unlikely we would have seen such a dramatic improvement in gross profit margin. In fact, I think we can say with all certainty that it's impossible to have hidden anything meaningful at the rate of millions of dollars, say $2.3 million of warranty repairs in 2023, and going on to $2.5 million in 2024, 1.26 million in the half year. So that's the raw data, and that's a long explanation. I hope you're bearing with me. Unfortunately, that is the nature of my research. It's fairly detailed. So now we can actually look at some of the graphs that we have derived from this, and we can see visually the impact of some of that data. We're looking at 2018 at the bottom, rising to the half year of 2024. We can see the actual expense per vehicle, and we can see the provision made per vehicle. And the actual expense for 2024 is roughly half that of 2023, which makes sense because the average vehicle has only really provided warranty for 6 months. So we would expect that to double in the full year, roughly double. And so we see that 2024 is really maintaining, pretty much the kind of standard we've seen all the way back to 2020. And we saw a drop dramatically from 2018 to 2019. I had a 2017 Model 3, and I changed it in 2022 for a new Model 3. And I can tell you that there's a good reason for this drop in warranty repairs, because the more modern the car, the tighter, the better, the quality improvement is pretty tangible. And so we're getting actual expenses, and I'm going to do a comparative exercise to other OEMs in due course, but this just gives you a sense that, we're on track and on course. This particular graph is a little bit more in-depth, and what this graph shows is three things, really. It shows the warranty provision, again in blue. It shows the actual warranty costs incurred, again in orange, and the dollars amounts are shown there. And this shows the accrued warranty provision. Just gives you an idea of how this warranty is accruing. and the rate at which it's accruing. And so now we see that the warranty provision is up to $5.8 billion against expenses that are running at about $2.25 billion for a fleet that is not rapidly aging because the sales have been growing fairly dramatically over these earlier period. But in the last 2 years, the sales have been relatively static, and we still see that the actual warranty repairs and actual warranty costs and the actual warranty provision have remained static in terms of percentage. So I think it's fair to say that this $5.8 billion represents what will become somewhat of a reserve in future years. And so rather than actually costing money, the warranty provision is probably in excess of what it should be, and we may see a return from there. And here I've added to that graph the performance of the service department in terms of profitability. There's the profit and loss. There's the percentage of margin. For each year, you'll see that the first half of this year, the margin dropped slightly. But other than that, we've seen a constant increase in the margin, while indeed the services revenue has risen very nicely, while the service costs are running at a lower rate, even though the fleet has constantly enlarged. So that gives lie to that particular rumor. Now I want to quickly go on to how we compare, firstly, to our local OEM, that is to say motorcar manufacturers, in our warranty performance. And the best way to do that is using Warranty Week. So Warranty Week, this guy here, is a website, warrantyweek.com, outstanding website. They publish a lot of warranty data about all kinds of manufactured goods. I focus on the auto manufacturers, and they have just published their first half of the year results. And every year I tweet out details of those results, half year and full year results, both for the local OEMs, that is to say Ford, GM, and Tesla, and then the international ones. And we'll look at them all today. So today we're going to look at the first half of 2024, as well as the for the local OEMs, and we'll look at the international results for the full year of last year, because we don't have half-year results for the international OEMs yet. So this is what's interesting about this slide. We see warranty claims rates for Ford and for GM and for Tesla. And so we can see Ford bouncing around at the 3.5% to low 4%, or just at the 4%. We see GM also bouncing around, went up to 5% back in late 20, and then around 3%, and actually going down quite nicely in 2024. We see Tesla around about the 1.5% to 2%, having risen a little bit in 23 and 24. And typically this is a new model. Possibly the Cybertruck impacted this, although the sales are very, very small for Cybertruck. It could be the new Model 3. It could also be the refreshed Model S and X. But in general, below 2% compared to GM, which is roughly at the 2.5% to 3%, and Ford, which is at the 3% to 4%. So that's the comparison of Tesla to its US competitors. And this just shows you the accruals made each quarter for each of these companies. There's not a lot to see here except that Tesla accruals have reduced, as Tesla has become more comfortable, or at least its accountants have become more comfortable with the quality. Actually, this is the Tesla line, this pink line here. And it's actually the dollars have increased simply because of the growth. Ford and GM have bounced around, and you're going to see a little bit about that because of several significant problems that they've had in some of their products in recent years. And by the way, one of the aspects of that is that when we have a recall in Tesla, it's almost never a physical recall. It's almost always an over-the-air recall. A recall for Ford or GM does result in a significant increase in that year because the cost of the recall is, have to come into a service center. The service center does the work and charges GM or Ford, and the result is, that additional cost. So that is one of the aspects playing into Tesla's favor. So then we look at claims made per quarter in millions. Of course, the dollars for GM and Ford are going to be much higher than the dollars for Tesla, simply because their volumes are much higher. And we see those volumes here, but we do also see it bounce around, whereas Tesla becomes gradually higher and higher as the number of cars climb out there. So what I've done here is I've compared Ford, GM, and Tesla side by side to show the change in estimate for accruals year after year. So the dark green is the standard so-called prior year rate for accrual. The bright green is the additional amount that had to be set aside in that year based upon performance. And you'll see that Ford has had an abysmal record of having to increase its accrual on a year after year basis almost every year. There's one year that it actually got a reduction in accrual. There are 2 years, I think, where it didn't have to have an increase, but almost every other year there was an increase. GM is a lot better performance. If you go back to 2018, 2019, you'll see they actually improved their performance year after year. And then in 2020, halfway through 2019, they reversed that, and we had very significant misses. Tesla's performance has been somewhere in between those two. It had several years between 2019 and 2022 where it recovered money from its reserves, but some years it had to post money to the reserves. And we see that it did have to post money around the release of the 20 and 21 new build or refreshed, I should say, X and S. And we'll probably see again that same event occur around about the launch of the Cybertruck. And there's no doubt that the new model that's going to be launched next year will probably also have an impact. But in general, the performance of Tesla has been pretty good. That's the sort of comparison of the over and under reserves. And then if we look at the accrual rate, we'll see as a percentage of product sales, we'll see the huge jump in GM. I think this was related to the Volt problems, the battery problems with the Volt. You'll see Tesla being consistent. You'll see Ford kind of jumping around over the place, and then some big event in late 23, probably the introduction of the Ranger or the Mach-E. And then if we look at the reserves held per quarter, we'll see that Ford has increased consistently over the years. GM has remained rather static, and Tesla has increased with the sales, with the increasing sales every year. So that's the comparison between GM and Ford and Tesla. And you'll see that Tesla has a fairly consistent and modest performance compared to Ford and GM. Ford is definitely the laggard in the US, and GM is somewhat in the middle, Tesla being probably the better OEM in terms of performance from a point of view of reserves and warranty. If we move to the international stage, here my numbers are a little bit older because, as I've said, they don't publish a half year. So this is interesting. We can look at claims rate in 2022. We're looking at 2023 reports, and we see Tesla in terms of performance, and that is to say warranty claims as a percentage of sales, sitting right there with Honda, Nissan, and Toyota, Polestar and Toyota. This is kind of, I think, the good guy columns in performance or warranty reserves. Then we have BYD, Mahindra, NIO, Xiaoping and Li Auto below that. And here one has to ask the question about, how the Chinese treat their reserves in the balance sheet, because these numbers seem, far too good to be true and probably therefore are not true. But if you look at Tesla's results, you'll see it's right there with Honda, Nissan. And, that's a little misleading in the sense that Honda doesn't have this problem of recall, doesn't have the problem of dealership network. And so you think that their numbers really are not quite comparable. And then you get up to, the BMW, the Volvos, and then the European manufacturers, Mercedes and BMW are all in this group. Or BMW is a little bit better than Mercedes and Hyundai. And then you get the Americans, GM, Kia, Ford, and then you get Volkswagen. It's incredible. Volkswagen's warranty payments year after year after year is in the high category. And the same is true, surprisingly, of Subaru, despite their reputation. And then if we look at warranty reserves as a percentage of actual claims, here you'll see that GM has a really excellent result. Tesla is there with BMW, BYD Group, and Polestar, where the percentage of actual claims are a little bit higher, or quite a bit higher, but they're in the same sort of geography as Toyota, Honda, and BMW, a little bit higher than Toyota, Honda, and BMW. So here endeth the lesson, guys. And the lesson is very simple. Tesla's warranty claims are consistent to better than most of their peers. They are very consistent across the years, and they actually reflect a very healthy environment where Tesla's reserves are significant. Their reserves are, potentially a future asset on the balance sheet. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If it's too much drilling down for you, I understand. That's just what this channel is going to be all about. So if you've enjoyed it, great. I appreciate it. If you haven't, let me know how I can improve. And I appreciate you being on this first podcast of my channel. Thanks for all.